This is who I wanted to talk about today, Tommy's mother. We pretty much only see her twice, in that brief scene when she says goodbye, and an earlier one, the now classic scene where Tommy, Jimmy and Henry arrive at Tom's home late at night to pick up a shovel but are surprised to see Tommy's mum having woken up, insisting that she makes the trio some food. What follows is a stupendous 3 minutes or so of three professional actors at the top of their game, and Catherine Scorsese, aka Martin Scorsese's mum, absolutely going toe to toe with them. Scorsese often casted his mother in roles sprinkled throughout his filmography, and Goodfellas is undoubtedly her most memorable performance. Scorsese's father is also in the film, playing the mobster Vinny, the one who put too many onions in the sauce, and incidentally is there when Tommy gets whacked. Anyway, there's so many great pieces of trivia about this scene, from Robert De Niro asking the real Henry Hill how the real Jimmy held his bottle of ketchup, to the entire scene being essentially improvised by the actors. Catherine in particular was not told much about the scene by Marty. Not that there was a dying man in the boot of the trunk only feet away knocking away, or what the characters had done that night. All she knew was that she was supposed to cook the guy's food and to bring up the painting at some point, which apparently was painted by the movie's co-writer Nicholas Pileggi. One thing that I've been curious about when rewatching Goodfellas is how much of Tommy's antics was his mother privy to. In other words, did she know he was a gangster, a killer? Did she know that he spends his days and nights murdering people before he came home to kiss his sweet mother on the cheek? After all, she comes across as a meek little old lady, sweet and cuddly. The idea that she would be aware of what her son does, of what guys like Jimmy and Henry do, and still be the way she is around them, doting and mothering, is pretty sick and deranged. Could it really be that she's in the dark? It's possible, I guess. She does come across as a simple woman, lonely even. Take her line.
So tell me, where you been? I haven't seen you. You haven't even called or anything. Where have you been?
And her insistence that the guys eat, which of course speaks to the fact that she's an old Italian-American mother, and this is very much culturally what she would do in this situation. But it could also suggest that she's desperate for companionship, someone to talk to, just delighted that there's someone in the house that she can talk to and cook for. Her body language looks positively giddy throughout the dinner, and there doesn't appear to be a father figure of Tommy in the picture. I think there's three main possible interpretations of Tommy's mother. Either she is completely in the dark, a simple, old-school housewife who is unable to keep up with the exploits and adventures of her son, or she is vaguely aware that he is a bit of a troublemaker and involved in crime. I mean, he would surely have a history. Small stretches in the can, issues in school growing up, you'd think. She'd know he's no angel, but ultimately, he's not that bad. Deep down, he's a sweetheart, a good boy, and he's a good son to his mother. That kind of thing. That kind of mentality where she probably doesn't want to think too hard about it and sweeps those deep questions with dark answers right to the back of her head. The third option is the most sinister of all, that she is acutely aware of what kind of man her son is, and her apparent silence is her tact approval of what he is. Growing up and living in the environment she is in, how could she not know? That kind of life is all these women know, and it's something of a trope of the mafia genre for these silent, obedient housewives, whether they be Mama Corleone in The Godfather or Carmela Soprano in The Sopranos, to have a complete understanding of what the men in their family are involved in. It's simply a part of the culture among the Italians. Real greaseball shit. It's also worth mentioning, though this is never brought up in the film, Tommy DeSimone's older brother was whacked for being an informant, so you'd imagine Tom's mum must surely have a semblance of an idea of the kind of people her children were, at the very least. My personal interpretation is that it's a little bit of all three options. It might even vary day to day, depending on how much she's able to come to terms with at any given moment. But I settle mainly on option 2, that Tommy's mum is vaguely aware that he's up to untoward things, but tries not to think about it too hard and is at ease considering him something of a scallywag, not knowing the full extent of his criminality. The alternative would be that she's gullible on a level that borderlines on ridiculous. Take Tommy's story about all of a sudden working night shifts, going on a drive and hitting a deer and getting the hoof stuck in the car, adding that he needs to borrow a butcher's knife to take it out as it's a sin to leave it there. It borders on mockery, as if he's baiting his mother into calling him a liar, but she buys it without a hint of resistance, meaning she's either incredibly naive or has pushed reality way far back into her headspace, unwilling to see Tommy for what he is. And I've got to be honest, if I was told there was a deer's hoof stuck in the grill of a car, I'd want to go out there and have a look. But of course, Tommy could easily follow this up with a lie and say it's his car that has the paw sticking out and they used Henry's car to get here. Or he'd just brush her off saying, "Come on, Ma, you don't want to see that." I find there's an added layer of sickening irony with the "it's a sin" line, given it comes from the most depraved and psychopathic character in the movie. But it also suggests that he's been manipulating her for a long time and knows how to keep her docile by essentially speaking to her religious sensibilities. And again, coming from a guy like Tommy, it comes across as mocking and blasphemous. Going back to her loneliness, perhaps her solitude and her desire to see her son overrides her sense of duty to discipline him. She mentions,
"No, I can't sleep. Not while he's home. No, I haven't seen him so long. I want to see him."
Throughout the scene, she just seems so happy he's even there, that he's safe and well. She's excited to show the fellas her painting. Why mess up a good thing? Why start an awkward conversation with her son that may result in him storming out, not coming back after a few weeks? We can envisage her, perhaps, being a mum who practically lived at her son's vice principal's office, to borrow a line from The Sopranos, constantly trying to keep up with Tommy's shenanigans and keep him on the straight and narrow. But now she's at a stage where she's old, feeble, and powerless. She's done her part, she feels. She's tried her best, and now he is whatever he is. Either that, or she was always pretty much in the dark from the beginning, relegated to cooking and cleaning the home, not having much of an idea of what her family was doing outside of the walls of the home. She's an Italian mother. She understands the life. She's as much part of it as Tommy is, and she knows it's not her place to say or question, and life is better if she doesn't question. This kind of cognitive dissonance would go way beyond Tommy and his mother and envelop the entire culture. The mothers and wives, they know, but they don't know. Everybody plays their part. A key scene to note is when she's saying goodbye to her son as he's getting made. She says to him, "Be careful, congratulations, I wish you lots of luck," as he's being picked up by two greaseballs, which surely is an indication that she knows he's getting made and that wherever he's going, there is some kind of possible danger involved. It could even offer us the slightly frightening thought that not only is she in the know, but she's proud of it. But then again, Tommy could have easily told her he got a promotion at a shoe shining factory or something, and her line about being careful is nothing out of the ordinary for what you'd expect a doting mother to say as her boy leaves the house. Though such a short scene, the dinner offers some great further insight into Tommy. We can infer he grew up without a father figure. Perhaps he died when Tommy was young, and thus he lacked a male figure to look up to or discipline him when he got out of line. Maybe Tommy's father was even in the mob before he died, and it's his example who Tommy wants to emulate. With the absence of a father, his mother feels for the hole in Tommy's life and chooses to give him unchecked adoration and spoils him where there should be discipline. Putting aside even the criminal lifestyle, within the Italian-American culture, sons tend to be very close to the mothers anyway, and the mothers often look the other way when it comes to the flaws of their sons, traditionally treating their boys like princes. Perhaps the inclusion of Tommy's mother is a Scorsese toned-down, subtle homage to the classic crime flick White Heat, one of Scorsese's favourite gangster movies, where the titular character had an unhealthy relationship with his mother. Tommy's mum does show a hint of wanting her son to calm down with his wild lifestyle, asking him why he doesn't settle down and find a nice girl. Tommy counters this with,
That's what I
settle down almost every night, but then in the morning I'm free. I love you. I want to be with you.
giving his mother a nice big kiss for extra effect. It's further manipulation, essentially throwing away his mother's point and swinging it back in her direction by pumping her with devotion and nice loving words. To put it bluntly, if I settle down with a girl, I won't be able to spend time with you anymore. I have you, so I don't need them. It's interesting also that Tommy is essentially telling his mother here that he sleeps around. He's repeatedly sinning, and she doesn't seem bothered by it. Another indication that she knows more about his lifestyle than she might first appear to. And to be fair to them, from the little we see of Tommy and his mom, it does seem like the two do have a good relationship whenever Tommy is home. Clearly none of his business ever enters the house. Tommy's line also speaks to the idea that, given how devoted his mother is to him, and this direct comparison Tommy has opened up between his women and his mum, he would expect his girlfriends to be like his mother, to show him that same level of devotion. Did you also notice this threatening look Tommy shoots Henry after Tommy's mother questions why he's so quiet? It's like he's saying, pull yourself together or I will. Don't screw this up in front of my mum. Then his face immediately changes and he goes back to listening to his mother's story. It's incredible acting. Scorsese once gave an interview on her where he said that growing up in the environment he did, and I quote, family members go off the wrong track. That doesn't mean the mothers didn't love the sons the same way. She doesn't care what her son does. He's home. Let me give you some food. Where have you been for 3 nights? She does love her son unequivocally. So it does seem like Tommy's mum did have an idea that he was involved in crime, but didn't know the full extent of it.